Well, hello. It's a beautiful day in the Chicagoland area. It's getting close to winter, and even though it's about 50 degrees today, 55 degrees today, it's usually probably closer to the 30s. And my son came to me a couple days ago and said the heat was no longer working on his 2003 Jeep Wrangler. And I have to admit, my first reaction was, wear a jacket. I mean, there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing choices. But after talking to my wife a little bit, I think she convinced me that it's probably a better option to fix the heat on the Wrangler. So after doing a little bit of YouTube research, I had discovered that some of the telltale signs of how to diagnose this problem was really playing with the three knobs. And you have your first knob, which is just the fan control, and if your fan control works fine, you can ignore it. Your third knob is your directional knob, taking the heat from the defrost to the floorboard to the front and so on, while this middle knob ultimately was the problem, that when it was turned from cold to warm, nothing was happening. So again, after doing a little bit of research, actually on YouTube, what I discovered was this part, and it's called a air door actuator. The part number is 604020. It's made by Dorman, and I started looking around, and I noticed I went to Pep Boys first, and the price of the actuator was $52. So then, but they didn't have it in stock. So I went to a second store, and it was Auto Part. Anyway, went to Auto Parts and went to a second store, $43. Did not have it in stock, so I went to O'Reilly's and actually found it for $43.99 as well. But then looking online with Dorman, the manufacturer of the part, I was able to find it for $30.13. Talked to O'Reilly, they matched the price at $30. So I went to work. So the things that you're going to need to replace this are just a ratchet and a 5/16 socket. Now what I found, actually let me take a step back. This is what the new part looks like. It is a pretty simple item, not much to it. And there's a second piece that comes with it, and this is the piece that turns the door open and close to allow the heat to come through. Now I noticed when I went to take the part out in the Jeep that this part in a 2003 Jeep Wrangler is a permanent part of the unit, so I did not need to use this in my particular installation. But also, if you do need this, notice that on one side of this little sprocket there's a flat side, and if you do need this when you replace your part, pay particular attention to the direction of this flat side, because that will determine on how the door opens and closes. If you get it backwards, it's going to create a problem for yourself. Now where the part is located, you're on the passenger side. I put a light under here hopefully so we can see okay, but it's up underneath the dash, and the old part, here it is. So it's a really simple removal. The electrical, unplug it, then you have three screws. There's a screw on the back, a screw up here in the front, and there's one on the side as well. Now I noticed when I started playing with these that these screws were not very tight at all, and I actually didn't need to ratchet to get the screws out. So once you take these three screws out, and actually they come out, as you notice, they come out pretty easily. Once you take these three screws out, the part is stuck a little bit on the piece that turns the door, so you have to pull it off with a little bit of force. And what you end up with is, here's the piece I was talking about. That's a permanent piece in this particular car. So the plastic part, if that's not a permanent piece, this is the plastic part that would go up in there. As I mentioned though, that's not the case for me. So the new part, simply you orientate it in the right way to go over top of this knob. And the way I was able to do it was I just lined it up with the screws, and you'll notice it just slides straight on. Now you do have to put a little bit of pressure on it to get it up in there, but then once you do that, you reinstall your 3 screws. You plug the electrical unit over here on kind of like the back right. You plug that back in, and you're good to go. So I guess the story here is check on your prices, and you should be able to get this part from Dorman direct for $30, or O'Reilly's was nice enough to match the online price for me. So I was able to replace this part in about 5 minutes for 30 bucks. And my son can now drive his 2003 Jeep Wrangler around Chicago without having to wear that jacket. Have a good day.